Hello everyone, this is Grace. It is June the 4th, 2023. We are continuing our study, I would say firstly on the number 3 in the Bible, but the original study is to show that a pilgrimage was not needed to Jerusalem during the Feast of Weeks, that you were to stay at home. I actually think they did get together during the Feast of Weeks, but I think and I don't know this, I have no evidence for this. I think that it would have been primarily the firstborn sons that did that. And then everybody else would just gather locally and celebrate with those men. But let's go ahead and continue on. But I have no way of proving that. I just don't know. Then there was a famine in the days of David. Hold on. We're in the process now of going through the number 3 in the Bible to show that it is used to deceive. Over and over I find deception after deception after deception, and the number that is usually linked to those deceptions is the number 3. Now, we're going to be looking at Elijah in a moment, but I put in David as a precursor, as an example, because David is going to show you the truth a little bit easier because they made a mistake in here that's clearer than it is in Elijah. So we're looking at this example first, and then we're going to go on to Elijah, and we're going to do, and hopefully you'll be able to see the deception. Okay, so then there was a famine in the days of David 3 years, year after year, and David inquired of the Lord, and the Lord answered, Is it for Saul? It is for Saul and for his bloody house, because he slew the Gibeonites. Now, I'm not questioning whether or not this has happened. I don't know. It probably did. I have no idea. The fact that David would allow a famine to go on for 3 years is what I found to be quite unbelievable. 3 years is a very long time to not have food and water before you inquire of the Lord, especially when you consider how close David was to God. It was not logical to me. So Gad came to David. Now this is when David had Uriah killed, and of course he's being punished now. So Gad came to David and told him and said unto him, Shall 7 years of famine come unto thee in the land, or wilt thou flee three months before thine enemy while they pursue thee, or that there be 3 days pestilence in the land? Now advise and see what answer I shall return to him that sent me. And so this is the real reason why I brought you here, because you should be able to see the problem here. 7 years of famine brought the entire world to the knees of the king of Egypt. He owned everything because of a 7-year famine. Why would God punish David and his people for 7 years worth of famine for what he did? Why would he do that? Immediately I saw something wrong with this. This does not seem right. Not to mention, you see the pattern of 3 and 3. But you get up here and it's a 7-year famine which brought the entire world to their knees? No, absolutely not. So how can you take 7 years and expect the people to survive after a 3-year famine? They could survive after a 3-year famine. It just seemed extreme to me. If 7 years brought the entire world to their knees, why would David wait 3 years to inquire about a famine? It's unbelievable. So here's the same thing written in Chronicles. Either 3 years famine, or 3 months to be destroyed before thy foes, while that the sword of thine enemies overtaketh thee, or else 3 days the sword of the Lord, even the pestilence in the land, and the angel of the Lord destroying throughout all the coast of Israel. Now therefore advise thyself what word I shall bring again to him that sent me. They made a mistake. They wrote 7 years in one spot. They forgot to change this part in the Chronicles. It was 3 years in both spots. They changed it to 7 because 7 is the number that we mostly associate with God. So it wouldn't seem suspect when you just read through it casually without thinking about it. When you sit down and you think about how 7 years crippled almost the entire world, brought the world to Egypt, then it becomes less believable. But still, that doesn't mean it's impossible. Maybe he wanted to wipe them all out. Maybe David had enough food and I don't know, for 7 years. You could pick at it. It doesn't seem logical. But when you see what they did, how they changed the 3 years to 7 years here, it becomes pretty obvious what they did. And they did the same thing here. David did not wait 3 years, year after year, before he inquired of the Lord. He just didn't. Who would? Who would? I mean, just tell me, who would wait 3 years before inquiring of the Lord if they had the ear of God? What's going on, God? We had a famine this year. What can we do? Who's messing up? Why would you wait 3 years to inquire about something like that? Elijah predicts the drought. And Elijah the Tishbite, who was of the inhabitants of Gilead, said unto Ahab, as the Lord God of Israel liveth, before whom I stand, there shall not be dew nor rain these years, but according to my word. This is not the way the prophets prophesied. They didn't do that. They did not say there shall not be dew nor rain these years. No, they say until you stop sinning. There shall not be dew nor rain unless you stop sinning and do right. That's the way it was. You didn't call out a number of years because the people might have stopped sinning and turned away during that time. You're telling them, I don't care. That's a curse. Even the plagues falling, the plagues falling upon Egypt were not like that. The king said, I repent, I give up, I quit. Moses, pray for me. And Moses prayed for him every single time. But these people are getting it worse than the Gentiles. Which is, well, we are the people of God, so that's not impossible. I mean, we know the rules. We're supposed to follow them. But you're just going to pronounce a plague on these people for years? This is not the way the Bible works. This is not the way prophesying works in the Bible. No, these things are supposed to get you to turn to God, not send you away from Him. Let me get out of God's territory, because for the next couple of years, there's not going to be food or rain. There's not going to be rain. And that's what that says. But according to my word. Now, we all know it was supposed to be 3 years, 3.5 years from the New Testament, right? And I'll show you those scriptures. Actually, let me just skip this scripture first and we'll look at those first. So, but I will tell you of the truth. Many widows were in Israel in the days of Elijah, when the heavens were shut up 3 years and 6 months, when great famine was throughout all the land. Elijah was a man subject to like passions as we are, and he prayed earnestly that it might not rain. There was none of that in the Bible, by the way, that he prayed earnestly that it might not rain. And it rained not on the earth by the space of 3 years and 6 months. However, when you go back to the original story, it says none of that. Okay. And it came to pass after many days that the word of the Lord came to Elijah in the 3rd year. If it saying, go show thyself unto Ahab, and I will send rain upon the earth. In the 3rd year, it means 2 years plus. It was only 6 months, but this doesn't match that. That's my point. One story doesn't match the other. It wasn't 3 years. That's the point I'm trying to make. The 3 is a lie. They repeated the 3 here in the 3rd year. It should have said after the 3rd year. Let me check the Hebrew to see if that after is there. Let me make sure. Hold on. It's not there. It's not there. In the 3rd year means 2 years plus. So it wasn't 3 years. I said it was 6 months. I don't know that it was 6 months. I just, since they had the 6 months on there, I figured that was a hint to themselves. But the 6 might mean something that we don't know about either. I keep seeing the number 10 and things. They may have planted that as well. Let's move on. Okay, and that brings us back to the Feast of Weeks. So if you were with me when we first went through Leviticus 23, you will recall that I was not sure what the "in all your dwellings" meant. However, I did notice that there was a change in pattern for the "in all your dwellings." The "in all your dwellings" means that you do this at home. That's what it means. The Sabbath is kept in your home. The Passover, you meet for the Passover. The feast, well, I don't know if there's an "in all your dwellings" here or not. Hold on. Well, the Passover is not, it's the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, so it's fine. The Feast of First Fruits, in your dwellings. The Feast of Weeks, in all your dwellings. So I want to read this to you because it doesn't make sense when you read it, and I don't know what it means, but if I figure out, I will let you know. And ye shall proclaim on the selfsame day. Maybe I need to read all of this in context. I hate to read all of this. Let's do it anyway. It needs to be done. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day ye brought the sheaf of the wave offering, 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. We don't need to keep track of this. We just need the context, okay? Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. Ye shall bring out of your habitations 2 wave loaves of 2 tins steel. They shall be of fine flour. They shall be baken with leaven. They are the first fruits unto the Lord. And ye shall offer with the bread 7 lambs without blemish of the first year, and 1 young bullock, and 2 rams. They shall be for a burnt offering unto the Lord, with their meat offerings and their drink offerings, with their meat offering and their drink offerings, even an offering made by fire, a sweet savor unto the Lord. Then ye shall sacrifice 1 kid of the goats for a sin offering, and 2 lambs of the first year for a sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest shall wave them with the bread of the first fruits for a wave offering before the Lord with the 2 lambs. They shall be holy to the Lord for the priest. And ye shall proclaim on that self same day, on that very day, that it may be an holy convocation unto you. You shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings throughout your generations. This doesn't make sense at all. It's like it's not a holy day at all, to be honest with you, because this just doesn't make sense. How are you going to go through all of this trouble, make all of these offerings, have your Feast of Weeks celebrations, and then proclaim on that very day that it's a holy convocation? How does that make sense? I don't know what this means. I'm going to have to look into it further. The study on the kings, like I said, this study took on a life of its own. It was supposed to be something quick, but once I started it, I didn't want to stop and do something else, so I figured just go, follow through, finish it up. But then when I found this problem, I just didn't have time to look into it. So I don't know what this means, but I will let you know if I find out something. But it seems as though it's not even a holy convocation. That's what it seems like. Ye shall do no servile work therein. It shall be a statute forever in all your dwellings, in all your homes. And I know you're all thinking, Grace, why didn't you just point this out in the beginning? Obviously, it's in your dwellings. Well, as inconsistent as they are in their errors, they were very proficient in this Bible in writing 3 times per year you're supposed to meet in Jerusalem. It is in the Bible over and over and over and over again. I had to show you that those 3s were written in there to confuse you. I had to. It would have knocked you off your platform if you do that search and you see all of those scriptures that say 3 times per year, 3 times per year. No, this would have to be wrong. But this is right. It's in your house. You don't leave your home for these. There's no need to, because you meet for the Passover unleavened bread and you meet for the Feast of Booths. Those are the ones you meet for. The atonement in your dwelling. You don't have to leave your house. The Feast of Trumpets, really, it's just the first day of the Feast of Booths. They would have a trumpet ceremony. Because if in Numbers it says blow the trumpet at the assembling, and you would have a solemn assembly there. So they probably blew some trumpets and they said, hey, let's cut this off, make it its own day. This is a lie. There is no holy day called the Feast of Trumpets. But I mean, it is because it's part of the Feast of Booths. So there is, but I hope you've been here with us for a while and you understand what I'm saying. Feast of Trumpet is not a real holiday. It's the first day of the Feast of, it might even be the last day. No, it's the first day of the Feast of Booths. The calling of the assembly is done by the horns. They probably blow the horns, the same horn. Well, they had the Passover on the first day of the Feast of Passover, so the Feast of Unleavened Bread, so. Anyway, let's see what other scriptures we have. 3 times in a year. Hold on. I don't think we need all of this. We'll just read this. 3 times in a year shall all thy males appear before the Lord thy God, in the place which he shall choose, in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and in the Feast of Weeks, and in the Feast of Tabernacles, and they shall not appear before the Lord empty. No. It is important for you to realize, by the way, Jesus never kept, and as far as I can tell, he never acknowledged any of these feast days. Well, I mean, he kept them, but he didn't acknowledge them as being real feast days. They were called customs in the New Testament. And Jesus did not oblige himself to go. He told the disciples one time, you guys go ahead. It's not my time yet to go. You guys go to the Passover. And they had no idea he was going. He decided to go. And he went and he snuck in later on. But the disciples didn't know. And the Pharisees would run around wondering, I wonder if he's going to come to the Passover this year. And the people were doing the same thing. Everybody was wondering, is Jesus going to come? He not only was he not obliging himself to come, he never acknowledged them. He never acknowledged the feast days. Not once that I can recall. Maybe I'm missing something. But one of the great mysteries that I have had for going on a couple of years now is why he would say over and over in the Bible, the Jews have a feast. Why is that? He simply does not acknowledge the feast days. He doesn't. And he doesn't oblige himself to go to them. So anyway, I mean, I'm just telling you, there is a command in here that you are supposed to go, but it wasn't something that was honored or done in the New Testament that I know of, not by Jesus. And I don't think Paul did it either. Paul would go just like just like the disciples would go. They would go to the feast as well. But Paul would miss them. He spent 1.5 years somewhere. He told another person, I must by all means keep this feast in Jerusalem, as though it could be kept somewhere else. So it just wasn't, it wasn't a law in the time of Jesus. So you do want to know that. None of them, not the Passover, and not the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and certainly not the Feast of Weeks, because that was never supposed to have been kept. Okay, that's it. That's all of it. 3 times in a year, all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. Twice. Once during the Passover, once during the Feast of Booths. Or at least that's where I am right now. Until I do some further research, that's where I am now. But this whole three has been plucked into our Bible as a means to deceive us. Not all of them, of course, but a lot of extra in there in order to get us, take us off of what the true meaning of what the word three, what the number 3 represents. Okay, well, that's all that I can think of. So I will talk with you in the next video.